Before the empires, before the legends, before the world knew his name, there was a boy with a dream that could not be contained. Born in the shadow of kings, raised in the fire of ambition, he would rise to command armies, defy the impossible, and carve his name into history. Alexander of Macedon, known to the ages as Alexander the Great. From the sun-scorched plains of Persia to the mysterious rivers of India, his conquests knew no bounds. His ambition knew no limits. He was more than a warrior, more than a king. He was a visionary, a builder of empires, a legend forged in steel and fire. But what drove this young king to challenge the world? What price did he pay for greatness? And why, even centuries later, do we still speak his name in awe? Join us on a journey through time, across continents, and into the heart of one of history's greatest conquerors. This is the story of Alexander the Great, the conqueror who tamed the world. The birth of a legend. Long before he was called the Great, before his name echoed across continents, before empires trembled at his approach, Alexander was just a child, born not into glory, but into destiny. A royal beginning. Alexander was born in July 356 BCE in the ancient city of Pella, capital of Macedon. His father, King Philip II, was a brilliant military strategist and unifier of the Greek city-states. His mother, Olympias, claimed descent from Achilles himself, filling Alexander's mind from a young age with stories of heroism and conquest. They named him Alexander, meaning defender of men. From birth, expectations loomed heavy. He was not raised for comfort, but for greatness. Legends say that on the night of Alexander's birth, the temple of Artemis, one of the wonders of the ancient world, burned to the ground. An omen, they said, of a firebrand destined to shake the earth. Tutored by greatness. As a boy, Alexander was not just trained in the arts of war, but also in the arts of thought. His father sought the finest mind of the era to shape his son. He founded in Aristotle. Yes, the great philosopher himself became Alexander's tutor. Under Aristotle's guidance, Alexander studied philosophy, science, literature, and ethics. He learned about the vastness of the world, about lands yet unconquered, and about the great heroes of history. But beyond books and scrolls, Alexander absorbed something far greater. A hunger for knowledge, a thirst for glory. Aristotle once told him, "Excellence is never an accident. It is the result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution." Alexander took these words to heart, etching them into his very soul. Early signs of a conqueror. Even as a child, Alexander showed a fiery spirit. At just 12 years old, he tamed the wild horse Bucephalus, a beast so fierce that none dared approach. Where others saw danger, Alexander saw potential. He realized that the horse feared its own shadow. Calming the animal, he rode it triumphantly, astonishing the court. King Philip, witnessing his son's courage, declared, "My boy, you must find a kingdom worthy of your ambition. Macedonia is too small for you." This moment became a symbol of Alexander's life. Seeing beyond fear, harnessing untamed power, turning the impossible into triumph. Shaped by conflict. Macedonia was no peaceful kingdom. Surrounded by rivals and constantly at war, Alexander's youth was forged in conflict. He accompanied his father on military campaigns, witnessing firsthand the strategies that would later define his own conquests. He saw alliances made and broken. He saw the cost of victory and the agony of defeat. These experiences did not harden his heart, they sharpened his mind. He learned that power demanded both strength and wisdom. He learned to lead not just with the sword, but with vision. The father's shadow. king Philip II expanded Macedon into a formidable power. Under his rule, the Greek city-states were unified, not through diplomacy but through dominance. Yet father and son often clashed. Alexander, bold and impatient, sometimes defied his father's commands. He believed in his destiny to surpass even Philip's legacy. Despite their tensions, Philip recognized his son's brilliance. He once said, "Heir to my victories and to my ambitions." Alexander stood ready, waiting for his moment. A moment that would come sooner than anyone expected. A destiny awaits. In 336 BCE, tragedy struck. King Philip II was assassinated, leaving the throne to the 20-year-old Alexander. The kingdom trembled. Enemies smelled weakness. Rivals plotted rebellion. But Alexander wasted no time. With fire in his veins and steel in his resolve, he seized the reins of power. He crushed uprisings, secured loyalty, and declared his ambition. There are no more worlds to conquer, so I will make new ones. Conclusion. The dawn of greatness. Thus began the rise of Alexander the Great, a young king forged by conflict, guided by wisdom, driven by an unquenchable thirst for glory. His journey would span continents. His name would echo through eternity. The boy from Pella would become more than a king. He would become a legend. Rise of the young king. At just 20 years old, Alexander ascended to the throne of Macedon. The crown was heavy. The enemies were many. But Alexander's resolve burned brighter than ever. Securing the kingdom. Alexander's first challenge came from within. The moment his father fell, enemies smelled blood. Rebellions flared across Greece. Neighboring tribes tested Macedon's strength. But Alexander moved swiftly. He marched south, confronting the city of Thebes. They had dared to defy him. Without hesitation, Alexander unleashed his army. Thebes fell. Its walls crumbled. Its rebellion silenced. Other Greek city-states watched in awe and fear. Alexander's message was clear. Challenge me and face destruction. With the homeland secured, his gaze turned outward. Uniting the Greeks, Alexander knew that to conquer the world, he first had to unite Greece. He continued his father's vision of a pan-Hellenic alliance. At the Corinthian League, he was proclaimed hegemon, the leader of all Greek forces. There, the great philosopher Diogenes, famed for his disregard of power, famously dismissed Alexander's arrival. But Alexander, in turn, respected the old man's wit. "If I were not Alexander," he once said, "I would be Diogenes." Such moments revealed the depth of his character. Not only a conqueror, but a man who valued wisdom as much as warfare. Dreaming of Persia, with Greece united, Alexander set his sights on Persia, the greatest empire the world had ever known. Vast, wealthy, powerful. But Alexander saw it not as an impossible challenge, but as his destiny. He declared, "I am not content to be victorious in Europe alone. The world is my inheritance." Assembling an army of Greeks and Macedonians, he crossed the Hellespont into Asia Minor. Before stepping foot on foreign soil, he cast a spear into the land and claimed it as his own. The young king had begun his march to immortality. Conquering Persia. Facing an empire of giants, Alexander stood undaunted. Where others saw impossible odds, he saw a path to glory. The Battle of Granicus. Alexander's first major test came at the Granicus River. Persian satraps assembled their cavalry on the riverbanks, confident they could crush the invaders. But Alexander, bold as ever, charged across the river with his companion cavalry. Spears clashed. Water turned red. Victory belonged to Alexander. The Persian commanders were slain, their forces scattered. With this triumph, Alexander opened the gates to Asia Minor. City after city welcomed him as liberator rather than conqueror. Liberating Asia Minor, Alexander did not simply conquer, he inspired. He freed Greek cities under Persian control. He restored local democracies. He paid homage to the gods of each city. This was more than strategy. It was wisdom. He understood that to build an empire, he had to win hearts as well as battles. His army grew. His legend spread. Whispers of the young king who never lost a battle began to echo across Persia. The Battle of Issus. At Issus, Alexander faced King Darius III himself. The Persian army dwarfed Alexander's forces, but numbers alone could not defeat him. Alexander struck at the heart. With a daring cavalry charge, he broke the Persian lines. Darius fled the battlefield, leaving his family and treasures behind. Alexander treated the captured queen and princesses with honor. Enhancing his reputation as a noble leader, he declared, "Wars are fought by men, not women and children." Victory at Issus cemented his legend. He was no longer just a Macedonian king. He was the nightmare of empires. Siege of Tyre. Tyre, a mighty island fortress, refused to yield. Alexander, undeterred, built a causeway across the sea. For 7 grueling months, his army toiled under constant assault. But persistence paid off. Tyre fell. Alexander's relentless determination shocked the world. There were no walls high enough, no seas deep enough. Nothing could stop him. March to Egypt. Alexander pressed onward to Egypt. Rather than resist, the Egyptians welcomed him as a liberator. At the Oracle of Siwa, the priests hailed him as the Sawa, the son of Zeus. For Alexander, this was no mere flattery. It was confirmation of his divine destiny. Standing beneath the desert sun, he embraced his role not just as king, but as a god among men. Conclusion. Master of Asia. With the fall of Egypt, with Persia fractured, Alexander stood as the master of Asia. But his ambition burned brighter still. The known world lay at his feet. The unknown world awaited. And Alexander was far from finished. Beyond the known world. For most, the world had limits. For Alexander, limits were meant to be broken. Crossing the Euphrates, Alexander advanced deeper into Persia. At Gaugamela, Darius III mustered the full might of the Persian Empire. Elephants, chariots, hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Alexander's forces were outnumbered nearly 5 to 1. But once again, brilliance triumphed. With a feint attack and a devastating cavalry charge, Alexander pierced the Persian center. Darius fled. Persia crumbled. Alexander was proclaimed King of Kings. Pursuit of Darius. But Alexander wanted more than a crown. He pursued Darius across the empire, determined to end Persian resistance forever. Tragically, Darius was betrayed by his own men and murdered before Alexander could reach him. Upon finding Darius's body, Alexander wept. He ordered a royal funeral for his fallen rival. It was not just respect for an enemy, but respect for the throne he now claimed. Into Central Asia, Alexander pressed into Central Asia, to the rugged mountains of Bactria and Sogdiana. Here he faced guerrilla resistance. But Alexander adapted. He married Roxana, a local princess, forging bonds with the peoples of these lands. He adopted Persian dress and customs, blending cultures into his empire. This was not merely conquest, it was creation, the birth of a new world order. Reaching the Indus, never satisfied, Alexander crossed the Hindu Kush into India. He defeated King Porus at the Battle of the Hydaspes River. Porus, a towering figure who fought valiantly atop his war elephant, earned Alexander's admiration. When asked how he wished to be treated, Porus replied, "As a king." Alexander, smiling, granted his request. The conqueror respected strength, and in Porus, he saw a kindred spirit. Conclusion: the edge of the world. Having reached the edges of the known world, Alexander longed to press on. But his men, weary and homesick, refused. For the first time, Alexander turned back. Yet, in turning back, he left a trail of cities, culture, and legend. Alexander had not only crossed borders, he had erased them. Alexander conquered lands, but more importantly, he conquered minds. He reshaped the ancient world forever. Founding Alexandria. Throughout his campaigns, Alexander founded over 20 cities bearing his name, but none shone brighter than Alexandria in Egypt. Situated at the crossroads of trade, culture, and learning, Alexandria would become a beacon of knowledge. Its great library, its towering lighthouse, stood as monuments to Alexander's vision. Not merely a conqueror, he was a builder of civilizations. Cultural fusion. Alexander embraced the cultures he conquered. He encouraged his soldiers to marry local women. He adopted Persian customs alongside Greek traditions. This fusion gave birth to the Hellenistic age, an era where Greek ideas, Persian grandeur, Egyptian wisdom, and Indian philosophy intertwined. Science, art, philosophy, all flourished in the world Alexander left behind. Vision of a unified world. Alexander dreamed of a world without borders, where East met West, where cultures merged, not clashed. His vision extended beyond empires of land to empires of thought. Though his life was short, his dream was eternal. Conclusion: the architect of legacy. Alexander's empire would fracture after his death, but his influence never faded. The lands he touched remained forever changed. His legacy outlived his conquests. In philosophy, in science, in the very way we view the world. Alexander had not just built an empire, he had built a bridge between civilizations. Alexander's enduring myth. Alexander's life burned bright, but like all great fires, it burned fast, and it left behind embers that glow to this day. The final journey. In 323 BCE, at the height of his power, Alexander fell ill in Babylon. Some say it was fever, others whisper of poison. Whatever the cause, within days, the young king who had conquered the world was gone. He was just 32 years old. His final words? To the strongest, a world in mourning. The empire plunged into chaos. Generals, known as the Diadochi, carved it into pieces. Yet even as his empire fractured, Alexander's myth grew stronger. He became more than a king. He became a legend, a symbol of human potential and the boundless reach of ambition. The immortal legacy. Alexander's story echoes through time. Historians debate his motives. Philosophers ponder his vision. Artists immortalize his image. Leaders study his tactics. From Julius Caesar to Napoleon, from generals to scholars, all look to Alexander for inspiration. He taught us that limits exist only in the mind, that greatness is born of daring, that legacies are forged in the fire of dreams. Conclusion: the man who changed the world. Alexander left no heir, but he left a legacy that belongs to all. A legacy of courage, of unity, of unrelenting vision. He reminds us still, there is nothing impossible to him who will try. The boy from Macedon became the man who conquered the world. And though centuries have passed, Alexander the Great remains immortal.